Well, good morning. We've stepped ahead in time quite a bit. It's about 7 o'clock the next morning, later than I expected to be sitting here making a cup of coffee, but that's good news because I fully expected to not sleep that well and then, be ready to get out of the tent and start the day at 4 or something like that. But as it turned out, I slept very, very well. Miracle of miracles. And I'm a real... my sleep is very broken. I'll sleep for like 20 minutes, wake up, sleep for 20, wake up, just go in and out of sleep all night long. That's just what I do. But last night I fell into sleep, a deep sleep, enough times that I feel good right now. And I didn't wake up until 6 o'clock. I woke up, the sky was starting to get light. And I've already taken a shower. Everything is packed up, the tent and sleeping bag and sleeping pad, and everything is all packed up already. So there's nothing to see over there except my bicycle covered in all my clothing from yesterday, hoping that it's drying out, not quite as damp and sweaty and messy and smelly as it was at the end of the day yesterday. So I've got my kettle boiling, and the guys that were here yesterday, they said that the gate opens at 7 in the morning. And originally, I thought that was too late. I pictured myself, as I said, being up way before dawn, and then being eager to hit the road. And I thought I'd be trying to get through the gate at 5:30 or something like that. And I told them that it's no problem, because I've been in situations like that before where I've been locked inside somewhere, like even locked inside buildings with my bicycle, and then I just end up carrying my bike and putting it through windows and putting it over top of fences. You just put all your gear over the fence and you climb over the fence and away you go. And I thought, I could just do that here. But as it turns out, I'm going to hang out for a while and enjoy coffee. I'm going to take all the video that I shot yesterday and copy it to a hard drive. I've got my computer out right now. And I assume one of the guys at least from yesterday is going to drop by here before I leave. And I'll hang out for a bit with him and chat. And I was doing some Google mapping last night, and it looks like there might be a convenient guest house not that far up the road. I'm trying to get to the city of Payumbaka or something like that. I've never heard it pronounced, so I don't know how to say the name of that city. It's kind of a larger place up the road, but it's about 90 kilometers from here. But one section of it looks like it's really, really steep. Like the road just wiggles and wiggles and wiggles and wiggles. So you're climbing the whole time. So I don't want to do all 90 kilometers today. I'm just going to do, I think, 40 kilometers up the road. And I want to find this guest house that I mentioned. I think it's called Wisma DU. And if I can find a place to stay there, that's going to be my goal for today. Just a ride to Wisma DU, 40 kilometers, very casual day, I hope, and spend the night there. So I'm not feeling like I have to get on the road, as soon as possible. In fact, yesterday I left relatively early in the morning, and when you stay in a tent at night, that can be a bad thing because you leave early in the morning, you ride all day, and you can arrive somewhere where you want to spend the night at about 2 in the afternoon. By 2, you could have already been riding for 7 hours and you're done for the day with your bicycle. And then what do you do if there's nothing to do there? What do you do from 2 until bedtime? You know what I mean? So if you're staying in your tent at night, you can actually afford to leave later in the day, assuming the weather is cooperating. And then, you know, you can arrive at your destination later in the day, and then that's more convenient for, you know, setting up your tent and sleeping somewhere at night. Well, let's see if my computer survived another day on the road. Happy sound. That it's a MacBook. MacBooks make that sound, you know, when they turn on. It feels quite interesting to be sitting here with all of my gear spread out around me. Out in the wild, as it were. Oh. And there's my bike covered in clothing that hopefully is a bit drier. It's all right. It's damp, but in this humidity, nothing ever really dries out, I don't think. And here's the weather right now. Cloudy, of course, no big surprise. Though, look at that. I actually see a little bit of blue sky up there. Oh, interesting. I didn't actually hear any rain last night, though that doesn't mean a whole lot because I had to put in earplugs at some point to try and get some sleep. The bridge is right there. It's a lot closer than it looks on the GoPro video, I think. And there's so much traffic. And there was a lot of activity last night. I don't know, there were a lot of vehicles that had like celebratory horns. It was like the horns were playing music or like sirens or something as they're going back and forth across that bridge. Anyway, there's a lot of traffic noise, and I eventually put in earplugs to be able to sleep, and maybe it rained heavily and I just never heard it. That is always possible. It's actually quite a bit later than when I was recording the video over here making coffee, because I got an error message on the GoPro, of course, saying that there had been a fatal SD card error and all the video would be lost. And that memory card contained all the video from yesterday as well. So I thought, oh, great, thank you, GoPro. But then I turned on I got my laptop all set up and all my hard drives and everything, and then I've been busy copying all the video files from the memory cards, and it turns out they were not corrupted. It just, another GoPro glitch. So I didn't lose the video files, which is nice. But anyway, it's a little bit later now because I've been busy doing a whole bunch of stuff there, and I have my second cup of coffee on the boil. I'm waiting for the kettle to come to boil. So it's actually 8:15 now, and to be honest, I would have expected visitors by now. The guys that I was hanging out with yesterday seemed concerned about me getting out of here, and they told me that the gate doesn't open until 7, and somehow I was expecting them to show up at 7, open the gate and then come down to, come have a chat with me and hang out for a bit before I left in the morning. But here it is, 8:15. And who knows, maybe somebody opened the gate and then just came with a key, opened the gate and left. And then they decided not to come down here. They didn't want to bother me or something. I don't know. But anyway, I don't mind. As I said, I don't have plans to go very far today, so I'm content to leave at 9:30 or 10. Crazy as that sounds, such a late departure for me, such a late morning, but yeah. Going to enjoy myself here, enjoy the setting, and take it very slow and easy as I ride, hopefully to Wisma DU. Hopefully this guest house exists. Hopefully it's 40 kilometers away, and hopefully it's not a resort for millionaires and I can afford to stay there. And finally, hopefully, they have a room that can be set aside for poor Doug as he trundles up on his bicycle. I had quite an interesting experience here, as I'm sure I talked about a little bit in yesterday's video, just hanging out with these, they called themselves local guides, you know, working for Travel Gulamo. And at the end of the day, there were 4 or 5 of us sitting there. Well, 5 of them, maybe. Yeah, 4 or 5 of them, and then me, of course. And normally, when the day was done, you know, they all would have gone home. But they were hanging out with me, and we were having long conversations, thanks to Google Translate. And that was kind of interesting, because 2 or 3 of the guys, I think they'd never used Google Translate before. And I had been hanging out with the one guy quite long already, the first guy that I met. And he and I had gotten quite into a pretty good rhythm of handing our phones back and forth. I think it was new for him too, to use Google Translate that way. But by the time the other guys showed up, he was an expert. And then he taught the other guys, he told them about what Google Translate can do, how to do it. And then once the floodgate was opened, I had smartphones being handed to me from all directions as they were, you know, speaking Indonesian into the phone, letting it translate into English, and then playing it and showing it to me to ask me the questions. And a lot of the questions were all the ones I would normally expect. They want to know what my job is or used to be, wanted to know about my travels in general, my life in general, how old I am. And of course, when they finally got around to it, the whole idea of me being my age, being unmarried, never having had a family, never having children, not having a house, like not having family basically, just astonishes them. And then there's something about that topic that really intrigues people here. And they would just drill down deeper and deeper and deeper. It's like, so aren't you lonely? And then they ask the aren't you lonely question 5 different ways. They find new ways to come at that question, and they never seem satisfied with the answer. And because we were doing the whole Google Translate thing, I allowed myself to go a little bit more in depth with my answers. And I think maybe I took it too far, because I was sort of speaking to them like I might speak to another Canadian or Western backpacker, sort of looking at the experience of being a foreigner in Indonesia from that point of view, like what it's like to be here and be unfamiliar with the culture and how things work. And perhaps I got a little bit in the weeds with some of my answers, you know, because they would ask me, like, what do you think of the life in Indonesia? And the standard answer would be, oh, I love Indonesia. People here are so friendly, and, you know, you give the pat answer. But I was trying to give realistic answers, and I was talking about how I've been here for, you know, 5 or 6 weeks already, and I've been to Sumatra before, but even after all that time, the life of the local people is still a complete mystery to me. These guys here, I talk to them for hours, but I have no idea about their lives. You know, I don't know what their job is like, how much money they make, what they did before this, and now when they leave here, and where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere. Are they still living with their families? Like, what are their living arrangements like? What are their hopes and dreams? What are their inner thoughts? Like, I don't know anything about life here, to be honest. I'm really just an outside observer. And I was trying to get that idea across, and I think I may have been a bit too ambitious in my replies. And the same thing where they asked me about my experiences being here, and I kind of talked a little bit about, like, honestly, I mean, of course, you can just say, well, it's wonderful here. I love the food. People are friendly. You can say all the good things, and that's all true. But at the same time, every day is a crazy adventure where you never know what's going on. I mean, weird and nutty things happen all the time. And then I kind of said something like that, and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Give us some examples. What are you talking about? And I realize now I may have been towing the line a little bit, where I'm coming at it from the point of view of a, you know, just a random backpacker wandering through the country telling funny stories, but they might take it as me criticizing Indonesia. You see what I mean? So, for example, I told them the story about stopping for lunch up on the hill here, and then the son of the family shows up, breezes in, breezes out, and then the father turns to me and says, "Oh, by the way, my son took your flip-flops, so you can have his. You know, don't worry about it." You know, just things like that just happen all the time. Just little weird things that I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. And anyway, I was trying to dredge up all these examples of funny and weird and crazy things that has happened to me in my time here in Sumatra so far. And as I said, I may have gone a bit too far with that. But yeah, we had a very long, very interesting conversation. Anyway, I think my coffee is boiling. My water is boiling for coffee. Oh. Yes, it is. It has come to a boil. And another very interesting thing that happened yesterday is that I mentioned in yesterday's video that while we were sitting there, a boat returned with a group of 8 women in the boat, and they had paid 700,000 rupiah for the Travel Gulamo experience, the tour of the Grand Canyon and the waterfall and the river, and they'd spent a good chunk of the day having fun with their friends on this tour offered by this company. And then I had an interesting experience hanging out with these women and chatting with them and taking pictures together. And as I said, one woman wanted to do a TikTok dance with me, which completely threw me off my game, I must say. I didn't know what to do. That was quite funny. I think the first time she tried to get me to dance, and I didn't really do what she expected. She kind of gave up. I got frustrated. Oh, come on, And then she turned off her phone and moved us to another location, and said, "Come." Set up a chair, put the phone on there, and started playing some music. And she started dancing and just indicating that she wanted me to dance. And she started recording, and so I started to do a little bit of a dance. Anyway, that was a funny experience, and I guess that can fall into what I was talking about earlier. If I was trying to explain to these guys what it feels like to be a foreigner in Indonesia, that would be a good example, because it's just sort of an odd thing to have happen. Like, that would not happen in very many places where, I'm just a foreigner wandering through on my trip, and I meet some local people, and the next thing I know, I'm being shanghaied into a TikTok dance performance out of nowhere. It's just it's something that happens here that strikes me as quite amusing. It wouldn't happen to me in Canada, in the cultures that I'm familiar with. Anyway, so these women, they left. They all piled into their SUV, and they're going to drive back to Pekanbaru. And then another boat I saw come up the lake and then was pulling into the dock here. So I said to the guys, "Oh, another tour," because they'd been hanging out with me for quite a long time, and I started to wonder, like, am I interfering with their lives here? Like, are they waiting for me to do something to set them free? And I thought, oh, they're waiting for another tour group to come back. That's why they're still here. So I said, "Oh, another tour group." And they were confused about that for a minute or two, looking at me like, what am I talking about? And then they realized what was going on, and then they explained, no, that's not a group. Those are actually farmers. And because this whole region was flooded by the hydroelectric dam, all the farmers' fields that were like in this valley, in this whole area, and on the mountainsides, they've all been, all the ones on the bottom are now flooded. Of course, they're gone, but there are still fields up higher on the mountainsides. And they used to have access to them from their villages, and then they would take a road or a path up to their fields. But now this whole area is flooded. All those fields that they used to farm are cut off. There's no more road access to them. So now what they do is they come here every morning, and they all pile into a boat, and they pay for this service. And this boat takes all the farmers, men and women, out to all the different points around the lake, and then they work all day in their fields, and at the end of the day, the boat comes and picks them up and then brings them all back and drops them off at the dock. And then they all get on their motorcycles and zoom off home. You know, their homes are out here somewhere. And that was something else I used as an example when talking to these guys. When they asked me what I thought about life in Indonesia, and I was trying to explain that it was so difficult for me to really understand anything about what's going on, because that whole situation, a farmer coming down to the dock, getting a boat to go to his field, and then coming back on the boat. And you can see all these farmers had, you know, big packages, all their food and water for the day. You know, it's like a guy going off to a construction site with his lunch pail, with his lunch and his coffee and his water and all the stuff, everything he needs for the day, you know, goes out for the day, and the boat takes them to their field, and they work all day, and then they come back by boat, and then they all, you know, get on their motorcycles and go home. And to me, that was such an interesting scene to witness, because I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. And I couldn't really relate to what was going on, you know, what was happening. And I said, yeah, these people, and like, I don't know anything about their lives. The history of these farms, that they're still working today, and do they have fields other places, and where are they going to go now? I don't know what their houses look like. I don't know what their families are like. If I went into their house, it would be a complete surprise to me just to see the rooms. Like, what do the rooms look like? Are there bedrooms with doors? You know, my experience going into a lot of these houses is that there aren't any. There's just like an opening, and there might be a blanket covering up, and then you pull aside the blanket, and it looked like there could be 4 or 5 people all sleeping in that same area, you know, which again is very different from my experience of my life, where most, you know, children growing up in Canada and becoming teenagers, they all want their own bedroom. You know, they have to have their own private room with a door that they can close. I mean, it's a very different world. The family life, work life, student life, everything is so different here compared to Canada. And I was trying to talk about these concepts, and as I said, I may have gotten a little bit too detailed in what I was talking about. Got a bit carried away with Google Translate, but yeah, it was quite interesting to have this long conversation. Ooh. All right, slowly but surely, packing up from my luxury campsite there behind me. One thing I learned, I was saying earlier that one great, really amazing thing about this spot is, despite all the water and all the trees and all the everything here, I'm out in nature, there are no mosquitoes. I mean, I think I was bitten twice last night, that's it. And I was just able to sit here in absolute comfort and not be tormented by mosquitoes. That's pretty amazing. Usually, you know, you get driven inside your tent when you're outside because, you know, mosquitoes just eat you alive. But even though there are no mosquitoes, man, am I outnumbered by the ants. Wow, there are so many ants here. Kind of, you know, you often hear about, you know, who is the dominant, or what is the dominant species on the planet. And of course, if you go by numbers, it always has to be something like insects, because I was here alone last night. This whole property, there was one human being, but the number of ants occupying the same property, millions, billions. Unbelievable how many ants there are, of different varieties too. You know, all kinds of different species, different sizes. It's crazy. I was in the squat toilet over there, and it was pretty dark this morning when I went in, so I couldn't really see what I was doing, and I disrobed completely, piled everything onto a chair outside the toilet stall, and then I go inside there and I squat down, and then suddenly I feel things crawling all over me. And it turns out that that whole bathroom was just covered in ants. So later on, it was lighter later on when I went back for another shower, and I could see the floor, and the actual spot where you put your feet was covered in ants, just like sea, like a black sea of ants, and that's where I put my feet, right in the middle of all those ants, and then they just instantly just went straight up my body. And then over here where I was camping, there are these big ones, big army ants, but they're just crawling all over the place. There's so many of them. Crazy how many ants there are. Anyway, one more bag to get. Well, actually, I gotta put on the trailer first. There we go. This trailer has a safety cable, which I never used to use, but I've been using it on this trip. It's probably a good idea. I mean, the actual trailer hitch is pretty good. I don't think it ever comes off, but if it ever did, that would be bad news. And this short piece of cable will hold it in place if the trailer hitch itself ever bounces off or you don't click it into place properly. So I've been using that trailer hitch now. Comes with the trailer. You can order it separately, and I ordered one to use with this trailer. But I never used to use it, but now I do it all the time. All right, time to go. Pretty late, 9:30. For me, that's very late to be greeting the world. But as I said, this is a very unusual set of circumstances. I wanted to take advantage of this luxury campsite and spent some time there enjoying the scene. And, well, I don't know what's ahead of me, to be honest. I don't know how many hills I must climb, how many major hills there are. We shall see. But I only have, I hope, 40 kilometers to cover. And yeah, gorgeous day. Just enough cloud to take the sting out of the sun, I think. Yeah, let's hit the road. I'm just sweating like crazy. Like my shirt is already soaked just from the effort of getting the bike ready. Yeah, and I've got a big steep climb just to get out of this place. The driveway here is quite steep. So let's got to get up here. Oh, yeah. Boy, okay, which way? I think this way. Yeah, just the road to get down here is a rough, rocky road and quite steep. Yeah, I'm disappointed that the guys didn't come back. So I guess what they told me yesterday, that the gate is opened at 7, I took that to mean they came back and opened the gate. And I just assumed they'd come say hello. A morning chat. But I guess lots of different people use the dock down there to go out onto the lake. The farmers, fishermen, all kinds of people. So it's not just the Travel Gulamo tour company. So other people have the key. Well, I'm assuming the gate is open. Though I did see 2 guys down at the lake just now, and they seem to be gathering up plants at the side, you know, pulling plants out of the lake. Yeah, a bit of exercise first thing in the morning to get out from my campsite. But that's to be expected if you're ever camping by a river or a lake. Of course, you've gone down to the lowest point in the region, water level. So when you leave, you got to climb back up away from the water. Gate. The gate isn't open, but hopefully it's unlocked and then I can just swing it open. But it's not such a formidable gate. This is not the wall of Game of Thrones. I'll be able to get by this pretty easily. Ooh, it is still locked. Yeah, they lied to me. So, gonna have to somehow get my bike across this barrier. Well, I'll take a closer look. here's my gate. And yeah, it is padlocked in place. Can't really go around it, so under and over, I guess. All right, trailer and pannier bags. Now the bike. Well, I think if I remove my GoPro mounting broomstick, then I might be able to just then I just might be able to slide my bike underneath the gate. We'll see. If I can't, then I will pick it up and lift it over the top. But it'll be easier without the GoPro attached. Okay, let's see. I think I might just try to pick it up. And I'm such a dummy that whenever I do something like this, I forget that I have glasses on my chest, and I end up picking up something, holding it to my chest, and I crush my glasses. So I'm trying to be smart this time and remove my glasses first. And then if this doesn't really work, then at least I haven't broken my glasses. All right. There you are. Nothing to it. I've lifted that bike over much more difficult fences than this. Or this isn't really a fence, this is a gate. But in the past, I've had to get it over top of like complete fences, like cement walls. So that was a breeze. All right, let's get out of here. All right, the barrier of the gate has been overcome. Well, all right. It's very clear why I do like to leave early in the morning, because it's already so hot right now. I just started the day, and it is sweltering, and I have sweat pouring down my forehead. And I've gone exactly 1.3 kilometers. I finished the climb up from the river, and I'm on a bit of flat land up here at the top, just passing by another large gravel pit, which continues to explain the nature of all the trucks that I see on this highway, on this road. The majority of the big trucks are all kind of like dump trucks carrying sand and gravel. And it's interesting, with these trucks, I can't actually see inside them, but you can tell whether they're carrying a load or not, especially when they're going uphill. Because if they're empty, they race up at a pretty fair clip, but as soon as they get a load of gravel, they're just like me, they have to drop down into first gear and just grind their way up. Very nice up here, getting into some very hilly scenery. Up ahead there's kind of a clearing. The road starts to go down and I can see ahead. I think I see part of the lakes and the mountains over there. Oh yeah, some lake off to my left too. Ah, and there's the bridge. That's where I was camping last night, way over there. You can't see that, but I'm enjoying the view.